Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how to buff car paint scratches out quick and easy, and keeping it as simple as I can but still getting great results. Before we can buff out paint scratches, we need to get this panel clean because otherwise the polishing machine will create extra scratches because of the grit that's left on the surface. So I'm just using some normal car shampoo and then I'm just rinsing down with some clean water from this sponge. And now I'm just going to dry the panel with a chamois so that we can see the paint scratches more clearly and see what we're working with. Okay, so let's have a look at the equipment you're going to need to buff car paint scratches out. So the first one is a DA, and then the second one is foam pads to go with it. And then you'll need a medium cut polish, a spray bottle with some water in it, a wax of some kind for sealing the paint surface once you're finished, and then a couple of microfiber cloths to work with. Okay, so we're ready to buff out scratches, so I'm just going to select a medium pad from my box of pads and put that onto the polisher. Just Velcro, so it just holds in place like that. And next I'm going to damp down the pad just with my bottle of water, little squirty bottle. So give that a good squirt everywhere. And now I'm just going to turn on the polisher for a second and that'll pull off any excess water. And that should leave the pad damp but not sopping wet. So now I can just put on a bead of my polishing compound. And you tend to do this just by drawing a circle around the outer edges like that. And now all I have to do is dab this compound onto the surface anywhere where I know I have scratches I want to work on. And when you're just getting started with a new pad and fresh compound, it's a good idea to turn the machine quite low. So this is on number 2 and it goes up to a maximum of 6. And that's just so that you don't throw off too much excess compound when you're working. Okay, so now getting started at the bottom, I'm going to work my way slowly all the way along that scratched wheel arch right to the top. And then I'm going to shift position slightly and come all the way back down again. And now I'm going to repeat the process, but this time I'm going to come across, move up a little bit, and then go across again. And what I'm doing is I'm overlapping by about half. So you're going across an area a couple of times as you're moving up, and that means that you'll get a nice even buffing of the paint. And now that the polishing compound has gotten into the surface of the pad a little bit, we can go faster without worrying about throwing too much of it off. So I'm going to turn this up to about 4. And then I'm just going to do the same thing again. Now if this is starting to dry a little bit and it starts to glaze just like wax does, you can just give it a little squirt with the water bottle, because this stuff works better when it's at least a little bit moist and liquid looking. And you don't have to push too hard. Just let the machine do the work for you. So I am putting a little bit of pressure on, but not excessively. And you'll get a feel for it, because if you push too hard, you can make the rotation stall. And if you want to check your progress on how you're doing it buffing the scratches out, you can just get one of your clean microfiber cloths and just polish it back. It might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but we've made some really good progress, but I can still see fine scratches down here, so I'm going to go over it again. And all you have to do is repeat the process. So if your pad's gone a little bit dry, just apply a little bit more water. And if you can't see much product on the surface, then you can apply a little bit more compound. Put it onto the paint where you want to use it. And concentrate in the area where you could see the scratches were still most noticeable, which for me was just down this edge here. Here I'm using a Draper Storm Force dual action polisher. And to be honest, it's one of the best budget machines you can buy. It costs about £70, so that's about $95 US. And this one's the 650 watt 125mm. That's about 5 inches version. There is actually a bigger, more powerful machine, but to be honest, you don't really need it. This one's more than sufficient for what you're trying to do. So once you've finished, then you can just buff it back, but I find it better to give the area a really good clean. And it's worth getting any speckles off of trim or off of the tires and things like that, because the longer they're on there, the harder they get to remove. Okay, so we've finished buffing, so let's have a look at it. And as you can see, although we've improved it quite a lot, there's still, you can just see some scratches still in the surface. And just along this edge, you can see it's just a little bit white in a couple of places. Now, we didn't cause this with our polishing and buffing. This was because the example that I chose was quite deep scratches. And in those areas, the scratch had gone through the base coat and into the undercoat beneath. And when it's that deep, you won't resolve it 100% unless you touch in with some new paint. And that brings me to a really good rule of thumb for when you buff out scratches in car paint. And that is, if you drag your nail along it and you can feel it's quite deep because your nail's clicking along the scratches, then you'll probably be able to buff it back and improve it but not get rid of it completely. But if you do the same and you can't feel it at all, or just a very tiny, almost imperceptible amount going over the scratches, then that's usually a good indication that you will be able to remove the scratch completely. Another really good indication is most car paint just from the factory has a slightly orange peely look to it. You know, you don't get a mirror image coming back at you. When you're doing this polishing, if you eventually get it so it's almost like a mirror and it's a completely flat surface like this is now, then you've pretty much done all the buffing that you can, and you shouldn't go any further because there's a risk that you might go through the clear coat. I don't want to scare you, because a dual action polisher, it would take a heck of a lot of work to go through your clear coat, but it is possible if you just kept going and going and going. So that's just why I've mentioned those points to you. Now, it might seem like we're finished now, but stick with me because there's just one more really important point, and that's sealing the paint. Because while we were doing all of that buffing, we've taken away any waxes or anything else that was protecting this paint. So if we don't reseal it and protect it, then we'll get ingrained dirt and deterioration of this paint quite quickly. So there's lots of different products out there that you could use now to seal and protect this paint. But my favorite is Meguiars Hybrid Ceramic Wax. And that's because it's super easy to apply and it'll stay on there for a good couple of months, so it's long lasting. So you just start off with a damp microfiber cloth, and then you just give the panel you're gonna do a couple of squirts. It only has to be a little bit. And now, using your damp cloth, effectively what you're doing is just spreading it around and making sure it's all covered. Now this stuff starts to glaze immediately. So with a clean microfiber cloth, you literally just buff it back straight away. And it's really important you do it straight away, because otherwise that haze can be really difficult to remove. So this is from before we started to buff the car paint scratches out. And this is from after, and as you can see, we managed to fix the scratches in the car paint. So if you're thinking it's a lot of money to spend just to get a few scratches out, the equipment and the products have other applications too. Like, for example, they can be used to freshen up old paint. So what I've got behind me is a 2016 van, and I'm just going to use exactly the same techniques to freshen up the paint and make it look newer again. And if anything, it's a little bit faster because we're not trying to get the scratches out. You literally just need a couple of once-overs and then the wax again, and you can bring that up like new and bring back the depth of color and the shininess of the paint. Okay, so I hope you liked this video on how to buff car paint scratches out. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up because it really helps my channel. And if you want to see more car tips just like this one, then please consider subscribing, and maybe I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, bye for now.